everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode. Now you guys are quite familiar with this style of video now, but in today's episode we're going to go through my top 5 Bream Vibe lures. So now that we're in winter time, although the weather probably doesn't quite reflect the season, having a lovely day here in Melbourne, but we are in lockdown, we're going to talk about my top 5 Bream Vibes. Now this is excluding any stick minnows. So everything that we're going to talk about today is purely either plastic or metal, and I'm also going to talk about some other lures that have come as a close consideration to my top 5, but haven't quite made the cut. Hope you guys enjoy it. As always, if you've got any questions, pop them down into the comments section down below, or reach out on social media on Facebook or Instagram. All right, let's get stuck into it. Alrighty, coming in at number 5 is the Gear ZX35. So for me, the ZX35 is a fantastic shrimp representation. It's got a fantastic action, fantastic wobble. The great thing about the ZX35 or the ZX series of vibe lures is these stinger hooks. So these are not your traditional treble style hook that we're quite accustomed to on many bladed lures. Whereas the big change when the ZX series of vibes came out from Gear, they brought out these assist hooks. So they're really kind of like that feeler or the extension of the feeler in a shrimp. A lot of fish come and do a little short take of those feelers, and then they get hooked by those little stinger hooks. So I think the ZX range was absolutely fantastic when it came out. Still catches an absolute ton of fish. Has the option of different toe points, so if you're fishing vertically or if you're casting out and you want that slightly different action and behavior of that vibe, you've got the 2 different toe points there on top that you can choose to tie your lure to and affect the action and have a play around with that. So for those reasons, and the fantastic color range also I forgot to mention, that is why the ZX35 is my 5th top favorite vibe lure of all time. Alright, coming in at number 4 for me is the River to Sea Baby Vibe. So this is the 35mm model. I absolutely love these little lures, especially when I'm sight fishing around structure, fishing around pontoons, vertical pontoons, jetties, anything like that. I think these River to Sea Baby Vibes are absolutely fantastic, and the reason for that is they're lightweight but fantastic sink rate. So I think they stay in the strike zone for a lot longer than a lot of other lures. Now, a really strong consideration or a really close, other favorite of mine is the Strike Pro Micro Vibe. But I find that the slightly smaller profile and the slightly heavier weight just allows that Strike Pro to sink a little bit too quickly in a lot of situations. I think the Strike Pro is great those times when the fish are really active and aggressive and they're really just going for those lures. When the fish are a little bit slower, that's why I think the River to Sea Baby Vibe really shines. It stays in the strike zone for a longer period of time, as well as having a little rattle within that body, which can really attract those fish, whereas the Strike Pros are silent lure. So for those reasons, the River to Sea Baby Vibe is number 4 on my list. Coming in at number 3, we're really flying through this list now, is the Bass Day Range Vibe. Now this is an absolute favorite of mine. It's probably gone close to coming in at number 1, but overall I don't think it has the versatility of number 2 and number 1 in this list. But for me personally, the Range Vibe, especially this sort of translucent black, purple head, orange little chin, has been an absolute dynamite lure. All the way from the Glenelg River, the upper reaches, fishing for those deep perch, brim, mulloway, all the way through to mallacoota, fishing around the sands, fishing in the top lake, the bottom lake. It's just been an absolute gun. The great thing about this lure is it's slightly heavier, so it does allow you to fish quite effectively in 3, 4, 5 meters of water. Allows you to cast long distances, get to those schools. It's an absolute dynamite, and it's got a great lure, a great action to it as well, which you can work quite aggressively or quite subtly just by doing that lift and drop retrieve, or doing a couple of really aggressive rips and hops. But A couple of others that I wanted to just call out are the River to Sea Glassy Vibe. So quite a similar profile to the Basscat range vibe, but not quite there. There's nothing quite like the original sometimes. So the Glassy Vibe does come in close. So if you can get your hands on those, I highly suggest it. But likewise, if you can get your hands on that Basscat range vibe, they are an absolute gun on brim, perch, mulloway, and a variety of other species. So for those reasons, that's why it's number 3 in my list. At number 2 on my top 5 brim vibes is the cranka vibe. Now, what an iconic lure. It's been an absolute dynamite for me over the years. Fishing around structure, fishing in the open, a fantastic colour range, a nice little subtle vibe, rattle rather. It's got a great action, a great sink rate as well, so it's quite natural in its presentation. Doesn't plummet, but doesn't take too long to get there. It's just balanced perfectly for my liking. It's had a great colour range. The trouble is, it's kind of hard to get them sometimes in the shops or online at the moment, just due to the popularity of the cranka crab. So hope to see more of those vibes in tackle boxes and on store shelves in the years to come. But the guys have absolutely knocked it out of the park. A couple of worthy mentions that I wanted to just bring up. Strike Pro Hummer, fantastic lure, very similar profile, but a few subtle differences. It's got a slightly weighted nose, so it does sit up with the bum up in the air like so. When it is on the bottom, it's a great little feature. It does have a couple of different toe point options as well, so very similar to what we talked about with the ZX series lures. Depending on your action and the way that you're fishing, you can change that toe point presentation. And the other one is the Jackall Chubby Vibe. So this is the 40mm, very loud rattle, like we're quite accustomed to with the Jackall Chubby series. This is another one that's worked quite well for me over the years. Sometimes that rattle is a little bit too loud, and that's where that subtle presentation and the well-balanced cranka vibe really stands out for me. So that's why the cranka vibe is number 2 on my list. And we're down to number 1. Now, big drum roll. Number 1 of my vibes of all time for brim is the VX35 in color 339. It's the iconic little crackle back. It's got the olive and the greys, and then beautiful orange belly. Now this vibe's probably accounted for hundreds of thousands of brim all around the country. It's probably one of the first vibes that, you know, really took off for me in terms of vibe fishing and learning the technique. It's an absolute gun pretty much all year round. It's fantastic up and down the east coast where a lot of those cockle beds, you know, the guys that are fishing those cockle beds, this is an absolute dynamite colour. A worthy mention that I really wanted to just call out as well is the Strike Pro Cyber Vibe, especially in that little colour with the blue spot on the side. I think the Strike Pro has got a slightly different variation to the shape and the technique and the action that comes as a result, but it's definitely a worthy mention in the vibe range. You know, there's a lot of close copies and imitations of vibes, but for me personally, I think these are some of the industry leaders. These are some of the lures that have been quite innovative over the years in terms of their techniques and colours and actions and styles, and they keep on innovating. So big shout out to all of these companies, to the top 5, to the worthy mentions that I also called out in the 4, 3, 2 and 1. But that's it. That's my top 5 brim vibe list. Really interested to get your guys' thoughts. What do you think? Have I missed anything? Are there any others that you would include in your top 5 outside of these? Comment down in the comments section down below. Really keen to read your comments. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Cheers.